trials and temptations.
Have you ever felt like you've achieved a lot in your life, but you're remaining with this one thing that has become a burden? There are many people feeling the same way that you feel. And the Bible is not an exception. It has given us a platform whereby we can see certain situations in the Bible and well apply them in our lives. So today, in that manner, we're exploring a beautiful story of Naaman and the servant girl, an Israelite girl. It so happens that Naaman was the chief of the army of Syria and who was well reputed, a good man, hardworking, had achieved a lot in his life. But one thing, he was a leper. He had leprosy, and the leprosy could not go away. And we all know that disease, by that time, it could not be healed. But it so happened that the Israelite girl who was captivated by that time by the Syrian army, who was working at his house, told the mistress that, you know, I know someone in my country who can actually heal my master. And telling that's good news. Everyone would love to see the master healthy and all fine, good skin and all perfect. So that in that way, that's how Naaman ended up going to Israel to look for that man who can actually heal him. And that man happens to be Elisha. So when Elisha met Naaman, they met, and the solution to the problem was you have to bath 7 times in Jordan River. Filled with pride, you know, Naaman was the chief of the army, a well-reputed person, servants all around. You told him to bath in Jordan River just like that. It was a hard situation to take for someone who knows his position, for someone who knows his standards in life, you see. So the pride kicked in. Of course, he said no at first. He was like, no, I cannot. How me, chief of the army, bath in a river, just that small river? It was like, even in my country we have better water bodies I can use, clean ones and very good, not this Jordan River. So he almost gave up on that solution. The servant he was with were all eager to see him fine, and then they started advising him, please sir, you see, you know, just give it a try, it's just a bath, it's just this. In the end, they convinced him to finally bath in the Jordan River. So he accepted and started bathing. He went into the water for the first time and came out. Nothing happened. The skin was still full of leprosy, it was still ugly, he was still sick. Went back for the second time, no change. Third time, nothing changed. Fourth, fifth, even at the 6th time, nothing had changed. He was starting to, you know, actually get more convinced that it was actually a lie. It wasn't true. They've just played with him. He came out after the 7th time. The skin was so perfect, just like the baby skin. You couldn't even trace any leper spot on his skin. Nothing. And it was all glory. People celebrated. They were so happy. He went back to his country, Syria, all happy with great news. And that's how the word of God got spread in Syria, and they ended up knowing about the God that has healed Naaman of leprosy. So we can learn lots of lessons from this story, but a few I want to highlight today for you, and I want to tell you something about humility. If Naaman had not accepted to go down the river Jordan, how would he ever get healed, you see? And why, of all ways of treatment, of all the solutions that could be there, why birth? It was such a humiliating act. You see, it requires a humble spirit to serve God. It requires a humble spirit to accept that it's actually God that can treat you. Now, it's God's plan for us to be good, to be in health, to have all the solutions in life, if we can only be humble. And I want to tell you something else about God's plan. You see, good or bad situations happen for a reason. They do happen for a reason. Now imagine that Israelite girl who was captivated all the way from Israel, came to Syria as a captive. It wasn't a good experience. It wasn't a good thing. But being raised up in a Christian culture and knew about God, and that's the habit, the character that she goes with wherever she goes. She saw the master. If it was another person, it'd be like, after all, I'm a captive, I shouldn't actually care about these people. But she cared enough to feel like actually she would love to have a master who is in good health without leprosy. After all, she knew that there was someone who would easily help. So if that girl was not brought to Israel, to Syria, probably the message, the word of God would not have reached there. Many things happen for a good, for a different reason. Sometimes we face situations in life where I feel bad, like it was so bad, it was so horrible, nothing to learn from it, it was just a bad thing. But actually, problems, every problem comes with a solution. Every problem has its own solution. So it requires resilience and love for God, and which is what I pray for you, that you might learn to trust in God, that you might have a humble spirit to listen and accept whatever He suggests, and that whatever situation we should know and trust that, good or bad, it all works for the best for those who believe. This is my prayer for you and me. Amen.